I'm at a garage sale in a little town away from Calgary in Canada. There are tons and tons of stuff for sale. I guess this family is moving out. A lot of interesting stuff here. Lot of cups. You have a lot of cups.
Oh, I don't have lots of cups. I have lots of glass cups too.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Oh, there are clothes in the back.
Yeah. You don't have to go to the back.
Uh-huh. Not really. Not really. But anyway, thanks. Oh, nice day outside. This is an interesting landmark in Montana.
I found this on the web for this is out. Check it out.
An interesting landmark in Montana. Something about the First Nation. Both Canadian and American flags. I'm pretty sure the First Nation, their territory occupies both Canada and the United States. This is the Blackfeet country. Welcome to the Blackfeet country. This whole area is Blackfeet country. In fact, Jeremy Diamond wrote a book called Collapse, called Collapse, which discussed this general region about its economic and ecological collapse because of the misuse of natural resources. It's an interesting book to read. This is Yellowstone National Park. This is my second visit in 31 years. About 31 years ago in 1993, we were here with 2 children, and the entire area, most of the area were heavily burned. Was either burned, I think it was the year before, in 92 it was burned. Many of the trees were charcoal black or charcoal chunks left standing. And it was a massive, massive fire that burned quite a significant portion of the Yellowstone's forests. Now, 31 years later, we see these dead tree trunks still standing. They're no longer charcoal black because the charcoal has been eroded through the weather, I suppose. What's left is the bare trunk. As we can see, most of these dead trees were probably from 31 years ago. And these green trees, they're much lower in height. All of them must be new growth within the last 31 years. And as far as the eye can see, I can see some dead trees. So this whole area are part of that burned out area. At that time, the area look eerily strange because the landscape is no longer green, it's mostly blackened. the area is mostly blackened, and it's just like another planet. It is very, very scary, or very bad, depressing landscape. But now it's all green, and the power of time gradually restored the ecosystem back to its original environment. But I suppose these dead trees will stand another 30, 40, 50 years. Then there will be nothing to see. In fact, most of the forest, the uncontrolled forest in the long past history, have gone through some of these processes. Massive burn, killing a lot of the vegetations and forest. And the fire is not necessarily started by humans. It could be a thunder strike, just a lightning, and lit up a tree. And if the environment is dry enough, it will start a forest fire. And a thunderstorm is quite common in this area, I suppose. So sometimes smaller forest fires will only burn out the weaker plants and weaker trees, and make the forest less dense. It's more of a nature's way to select or control growth. So this is Yellowstone National Park. It's very, very crowded, and compared to Alaska, this is just so crowded. But at least there are not many. There's still a lot of bugs, but not as bad as in Alaska. But the landscape in Alaska, anywhere you go, is probably on a scale of grandeur and a spectacular scenery above that of Yellowstone, in my opinion. Of course, they don't have so many there's so many hot springs, and those are what you call the old faithful and those things. And but anyway, there's a bison on the road stopping the traffic. He's just casually strolling in the middle of the road, ignoring all of the cars around him and having a good time. And everyone is mesmerized by the look of such a bulky, slow-moving animal. Bison. I think that's a bison. Or is that a buffalo? No idea. I think it's a bison. Now imagine there is a black bear next to it. It might just attack that bison. Probably black bear will not attack them. It's a bison. That thing is big. That thing is really big. So many bisons. I guess that you can call them buffaloes. They're the same. Bisons, actually, in the U.S., there are certain restaurants that do bison burger. So bison is closely related to cattle. I guess bison meat should taste similar. Might be a little bit more gamey than regular farm raised cattle. But I don't think I've ever eaten a bison steak or a bison burger. But maybe I'll try it. These are bigger. I think they're bigger than the regular cattle. They must be more lean than the cattle raised for meat, because these are naturally. They look so awkward. They look cute. They look kind of adorable. This is the attraction of Yellowstone. with bison standing in the middle of the road. Traffic in both directions are just completely stopped. Everyone just turn off their engine and just wait. This could take a long time. Those two buffalo, those two bisons are really patiently standing on the road. There's a black bear scratching himself. That's a black bear. That's not a brown bear. Trying to dig a root or something, trying to dig something. He's having a good time. This is a Yellowstone National Park. The water is no longer light blue color, milky blue, glacial. This is more like a regular mountain springs. Still coming from the mountain, but it's no longer bluish. So there must be a lot of microbes. No peeing off the porch.
There's a problem, I tell you what.
Yeah. Only after dark, but not now.
The locals here, they don't care what time it is.
All those dead trees. I wonder whether they are the burned out dead trees or some other reason. This is near the Yellowstone National Park. There's a little canyon in the distance. Looks pretty nice. This is a pretty grand scale, almost on the same level of scale as the Grand Canyon. But it's not as colorful, but still the scale of the depth, the distance. I hope it's a clear weather. There's a thunderstorm going to my left, so it's kind of a hazy.
Over 4,000. And then here we're at like what, 6,000, 6,500? So like you can see like what an inside was located.
Yeah.
I think they're just more worried about sticking other objects in them. Is that maybe? Or not?
But if it was a park.
So then make it.
Olha só que bonito lá. Ah, 对不对？坐在这里，是美容之类。Olha o buracão de onde vem, chama Blackpool.
跟那个 Grand Teton 跟这边没法比，是吧？
来，俩。
去找妈妈，过来。好。
This color is probably from the rust of the iron and sulfur and phosphates and some other chemical elements, calcium.
Yeah, but no, that was nice.
Is it okay?
There's
All of these hot springs, these are probably boiling hot, very hot, rich with sulfur, calcium, and magnesium, iron, probably a lot of other minerals. Wow, so hot. Percolating spring. These hot springs are not as magnificent as the one we saw in Iceland. The old faithful geyser in Yellowstone National Park is probably considered the most important spot for visitors to come to see. So the parking lot was enormous, and just look at the number of tourists here. Oh, that's a massive dog. That dog is well over 200 pounds. That dog is well over 200 pounds. Everyone is getting ready for 12:44 estimated eruption time. Look at the number of people around here. There must be a few thousand. It's teasing us. Oh yeah, small bird. Try.
口渴。
我这没水啊。
你喝我的水。
没等这快要喷了，你就喝过。
哪天喝过？别倒了。
Sorry.
The guide can more than 10 minutes. 我在泡这边，我也喜欢泡这边。泡这边这边颠掉了。
你说他这个会好吗？你说他这个会不会？他可能这一波总共喷也不很高。
他这有小，
有小的哈。
我要一直把它可以出来泡，再看。
Should be a list of everyone going.
妈妈，苹果。妈妈，苹果。妈妈。
Get it.
会等1个小时吧？
差不多1个小时。
还不如先去。
今年晚上让你们怎么样？这个要看一下运气。来的来的。
Okay, we're leaving now.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Okay. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, getting better.
That's a nice geyser.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nice.
Wow. That's actually the best of what I've ever seen for all three times. Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Is that for a shower?
Whoa. Just look at this crowd. Another traffic jam by road crossing bisons. This is in Grand Teton. Oh my God, there's a stampede. The Grand Teton Dam. This dam just blocked up a big lake. Look at the water, how clean it is. This is a hike at the foot of the mountains in Grand Teton. Grand Teton, in my opinion, is more scenic than Yellowstone. It doesn't have the hot springs and geysers and the huge lakes, but they have many smaller lakes, and the peaks are much more scenic. They're much more picturesque, very nice, and they're sharp. I think they're over 10,000 feet up with a glacier, with permanent year-round glaciers on top. It's a smaller, slightly smaller national park compared with Yellowstone. However, it's the mountains are much more more beautiful, more majestic. At the same time, because Grand Teton is so close to Yellowstone, it's literally half an hour drive south of Yellowstone. So most tourists who come to visit the Yellowstone would naturally stop by Grand Teton. But in my opinion, Grand Teton in and by itself is a national park worth spending a few days, because there are many hikes like the one I'm taking right now that can go up this mountain. Not all the way, because that would be too much, at least part of the way. 10 kilometers or so distance, and because this place elevation is relatively high, in the summer it's not that cold, it's not that hot, it's not hot at all. If during the mid-July time frame, it's still reasonably comfortable here. During the days in the 80s, sometimes it hit the low 90s, but mostly in the 80s. During the 90s, in the 40s, very cool. But at this same time, if you go to other national parks, like those parks in Utah have some of the most breathtaking national parks in the United States. But then you'll be baked by 100+ temperature every day. Right now it's above 100. Of course, if you go to Nevada, go to Arizona, it's even higher. So that makes those locations difficult, or at least not comfortable to visit during the summer. Those places are perfect for early summer, late autumn, or even the winter. Utah in the winter could be a little bit cold, but Utah is beautiful. The beauty there is not just the mountain, it's the color, because of the rocks, the colors of the rocks. But here in Grand Teton, we can see these peaks are majestic. They're just grand. That's why I guess they're called Grand Teton. I don't know the word. Where does the word Teton come from? But these peaks are really high. I think each one of them is higher than ones we saw in Yellowstone. Yellowstone doesn't have too many very tall peaks, but these peaks is a range of mountains, one after another. It's like a cascade of sharp peaks, go way up. Beautiful. Well, this is in Grand Teton. I just came from Yellowstone. Maybe I'll pick a topic on the subject of supervolcanoes. As we know, Yellowstone is a supervolcano, and that volcano covers the entire Yellowstone National Park and more. In fact, I think it's 45 by 35 miles in dimension. So think of a volcano that is 45 miles by 35 miles, and that is a massive volcano. That's called a caldera. A caldera is the hot chamber that is right underneath the surface of the earth, and the vent of the volcano is not the thing. It's the caldera. Think of a crust, a mud, okay, crusted on top, but there is a chamber of hot air underneath, and that hot air will build up the pressure. Eventually it might just pop. If it pops, that whole bubble will pop. It's not just a tiny little vent. So that bubble is 35 by 45 miles in dimension, and the super volcanoes are very rare, both in time and in space. And in human history, we have not really experienced a real supervolcano. I think the 19th century volcano in Indonesia, I forgot the name of that supervolcano. That might be one of them. And then there is another one in Mediterranean during the Middle Ages. That's the one, Santorini. That's the island of Santorini, which I visited a couple of years ago. That's a pretty significant volcano. Those volcanoes, when we call them significant, are big, huge volcanoes, because they have enough power to alter the direction of a civilization. More specifically, supervolcanoes. Let's talk about supervolcanoes. The Yellowstone is a supervolcano, and that volcano has exploded, erupted about 650,000 years ago. So think about that time frame. That's when humans have not even left Africa. Homo sapiens are still in Africa. There are no related species in Eurasia, let alone in America, because America at that time had no humans. The earliest evidence of human Homo sapiens are the Aboriginal, the Indians that came about between 15,000 to 30,000 years ago. Depends on who you ask. So the 650,000 years is really a long time ago, but in Earth time, that's really not much. It's not much. So that volcano, when it erupted, could basically blanket the entire Earth with thick layer of dust and smoke, and pretty much change Earth climate in an instant. We're talking about in a matter of days. The thick layer of smoke, the thick layer of dust will blanket or encapsulate the entire, or how to say, encase, yeah, that's the right word, encase the entire Earth. And what that means is that it would immediately block out most of the sun, and the photosynthesis, for that matter, will have to stop or be dramatically reduced. So photosynthesis, if that gets stopped, there will be no plankton microbes surviving in the ocean, and most of the vegetations and trees and plants will die out. With that, the food chain is disrupted. All the herbivores, all the things that eat grass will die. All the carnivores that eat the herbivores, eat the proteins, animal proteins, they will die. So supervolcano can easily cause a third of the species to extinct, to go extinct. But in human history, there are no super volcanoes, I think. In fact, super volcanoes have been blamed by some scientists, have been identified as possible causes of some of the mass extinction events in Earth's life cycle, in Earth's history. But in human history, we're talking about there's one huge one in Indonesia. There's not a couple of others in the Mediterranean. In fact, one of them, I forgot, it was about 6,000 years ago. That caused the so-called Bronze Age collapse. Bronze Age collapse, it means there is a dramatic disruption in terms of the natural environment. All of a sudden, that caused the food chain to break, and humans are living around the Mediterranean, particularly north of the Mediterranean, suffers the most. There is mass starvation, and cause those people to migrate away, and some of them to migrate away towards the South Mediterranean, and they start to attack the civilization of Egypt, the civilization of ancient Greek, and they were called the Sea People. Today, it's still hard to identify who they are because the Egyptians called them Sea People. They could not identify which country, which nation, or which tribe, or which kingdom, I would say, which kingdom they came from. They just came out of nowhere, started to attack. And later, some scientists believe that's because of that supervolcano disrupted the climate and disrupted the food chain, caused those massive starvation. People start to flee from their homeland in search of new food, a new source of food and place to live, and they start to attack the place where there's still food, which is Egypt. And that partially blamed for collapse of the Bronze Age and also for the Egypt dynasties, or whatever you call it. So the supervolcano, in this sense, can really change the direction of civilization. And according to scientists, they found that the Yellowstone volcano has roughly a period of 600 to 700,000 years in between two major eruptions. In other words, if it does erupt again, it could cause similar civilizational events. But the last eruption is 650,000 years ago. And that is a number, 600 to 700,000 years interval between two major eruptions, makes Yellowstone kind of a frightening concept to think about, because if it does erupt, it's not about affecting the state of Montana and Wyoming and Colorado and Nevada and so forth. It is pretty much half of the United States will be wiped out. In other words, there will be no way to live in that area, and the global climate, the global climate pattern will be completely, dramatically altered. and that could cause a civilizational event. In other words, it could alter the direction of the civilization. But so far, no evidence shows that the Yellowstone caldera is shows any sign of going into another major eruption. It does not look like it, because these estimates are rough. They will be give or take a few 100,000 years. It could be another few 100,000 years before Yellowstone erupt. It could be tomorrow. I shouldn't say tomorrow, because if it is tomorrow, there will be signs. There will be smaller earthquakes. There will be a ton of things, but nothing happened. But anyway, so these volcanic eruptions, to some extent, is what we call contingent events. Contingent in this sense, it is unpredictable, but it became a sufficient condition for something new to happen. You don't know when the condition will happen, but if it does happen, it could create huge shift in the direction of the civilization. So such contingent events, one of them will be a supervolcano. Another one will be, of course, an asteroid. If an asteroid of sufficient size hit the Earth, oh yeah, that could become a civilizational event, change civilization, or it could be an extinction event. It could be enough to wipe out large number of species, including the humans. As we know, it happened several times in the past, but it could happen again. In 65 million years ago, a volcano of roughly 10 miles in diameter hit the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico today. That event wiped out 99.99% of the dinosaurs in a matter of years, or a matter of 100 years. All of a sudden wiped out. Because even if you say they're wiped out in 100 years, that's an instinct in Earth time. Because dinosaurs have been on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. And they could be wiped out. But it is precisely because of that event that created opportunities for mammals to thrive. We are all mammals. We share a common ancestor with all mammals. At that time, mammals are tiny, smaller animals, and they were on the food chain. They were probably near the bottom. In other words, they were the one being hunted by larger animals for food. As food. And the top of the food chain most likely are the dinosaurs. But with the dinosaurs wiped out from the Earth due to that catastrophic asteroid, it basically darkened the Earth for 1,000 years. For a whole 1,000 years, the Earth was basically nuclear winter. When I say nuclear, it's a quote-unquote winter that covered with thick shroud of dust, and no plants, no vegetation. So everything is just winter now. And that gives the little mammals an opportunity to thrive because it does not need a whole lot of food to survive, and its predators are mostly gone. And because of that, afterwards, in the next few million years, mammals become much bigger. So they evolve to become bigger and bigger. And of course, many mammals evolve to become predators. And the biggest mammal, as we know, are the elephants. Or actually not the elephants. The biggest mammal are the whales. They're the biggest. But we all share a common ancestor. So in this regard, this contingent event of asteroid hitting Earth is an event as human species we should feel grateful. Because without it, today, the Earth may be dominated by the offsprings or the natural selected offsprings of dinosaurs. As we know, dinosaurs reproduce through eggs, not like mammals reproduce through natural birth. And I don't know if the eggs will be, that form will be enough to make the species a smart one, but who knows? But as a branch of the mammal species, we should feel thankful. And same goes with those supervolcanoes. They altered the civilization, and with the Bronze Age collapse and all of that, Iron Age emerged. And with Iron Age, technology rapidly advanced, and you know, iron is much more difficult to smelt. I think that's the word. But it is much cheaper to obtain from the earth. The iron core are everywhere. Iron has a quality much better than bronze, than copper and zinc. They're harder, they're stronger, and they're more suitable for making weapons and making other things. Even today, I mean, most of the gun barrels and the cannon barrels are made from iron and steel. They're not made from copper. And of course also other tools. I mean, almost everything we use today, some of the best, most precise tools are all made of materials mostly from iron, whether it's stainless steel or high quality steel or steel alloyed or aluminum alloyed. Aluminum is another good metal, but nothing compared with iron in terms of its pervasive use and in terms of its superb physical quality. So Bronze Age collapse, I'm not quite sure how we could, I don't know enough to say that has affected humanity as much as the other events. But that is the topic of the super volcano of Yellowstone, and I'm amazed how many tourists are on this trail. If this trail is in Alaska or in upper Canada, I would be the only person hiking. But here it's just hordes and hordes and hordes of people, probably because this trail is relatively easy. It's relatively level. So there are a lot of children, a lot of older people, and I should have picked a trail that is a little steeper, so to have more solitude. I'm great.
Oh, that's kind of cute. Very.